Okay, so let us get started. So I think these two questions would have been uploaded, the process costing questions to the LMS. So you can download it from there. Please let me know whether it is there. So if not, I can even upload them as well. I think has to be there. Right. Here we are going to looking at the first question. So it's a kind of exam type question. And let us have a look at that. A company manufactures a product which passes through two processes, namely process 1 and process 2. The following information is relevant to March 2020. The unit inputs are given: output, the opening WIP, cost of opening WIP, material cost, the labor cost, the manufacturing overhead, and the closing WIP units are given, right? Then the additional information, it says that the closing work in progress of process 1 is 80% completed for material and 50% completed for labor and 40% completed for overhead. The closing work in progress of process 2 is 2/3 completed for labor and 75% completed for overhead. Okay. The opening work in progress of process 2 is 40% completed for labor and 50% completed for overhead. So it had a value of labor rupees 3.2 million, overhead 6 million or 6,000 for the work done in process 2. No further material is added in the process 2. Normal loss is 5% from the input of process 1 and 2. And when you are calculating the input, the total input should include any opening WIP. So if you have any opening WIP, that should also be considered. The normal loss of process 1 has no scrap value. The normal loss of process 2 can be sold at value equal to input to process 2. So maybe at such kind of a value. The abnormal loss are not having any scrap value. So abnormal loss is not having any scrap. And you need to prepare the process 1 and 2 account using weighted average cost method. Normal loss account and abnormal loss account as well. Okay, so let us first get the structures done, and thereafter we may start working. So there are, most importantly, you need to have two processes, and yeah, let's see. So first I want you to get the structures done, in the sense the relevant account and also the other things. Just copied the information over there. So is this question available in the LMS, Buddha? Can someone let me know? Whether these questions are available in the LMS or not. So can you all hear me? Hope you all are right. Right, okay, thanks. Okay, let us get the structures done together so you can have them. Have you all communicated about your assignment? Hope you all are. You would have communicated on your assignment, no? It's going to be the process 1. And they ask, the normal loss was said that no scrap. Do not know whether it is a, so you may need definitely a schedule schedule for equivalent units. Schedule for equivalent units is required. It's a kind of working that will make the things easy with you. Yeah. Right. So just give it a try. Yeah. Right. If you all have got the structures done, we can start looking at this together. As usual, we may start with the information that is given. First, it says that the process one, you need, there you have no opening WIP. So from the beginning, there's no opening WIP. So there's nothing, right? So it's 0. Or even you can simply ignore mentioning that. Then you have the inputs, 15,000 unit input. So it's basically the material input, 15,000 units. You may also given the cost of that. It is 26,740. Take that. Then you have the labor, 36,150. So the labor is there. 36,150. Then you have the manufacturing overhead. It's also important, manufacturing overhead. That is going to be 40,635. Okay. Take those amount. Then let's look at the other part. It's about the output. So that is the output, finished goods. We call them finished goods. Or since we have two processes, let us take the output. Let us take it output. It's 10,000. Then you have the closing WIP as well. So before that, let us check whether there are any abnormal loss or something. So the question says that the normal loss is 5% from the input of process 1 and 2. The total input should include any opening work in progress. Any opening work in progress must be included. Any opening work in progress. Here, no opening progress, work in progress. So therefore, we can simply take the normal loss unit. Normal loss units to be how much? So 15,000, and that is into 5%. So it is 750 units normal loss. And it says that in the process, the normal loss does not have any scrap value as well. So no amount is there. Then what is the expected output? So if you have to take the expected output, so in the process, you would have expected to take an output of 14,250, but eventually what it has resulted, let's see, even the closing WIP is there, 4,400 closing WIP. Accordingly, you can see that the output is turned out to be something greater than the expected output. So you can see that 10,000 plus 4,400, it is 14,400, where it should be 14,250, suggesting there's abnormal gain. Abnormal gain is there. Abnormal gain, and that is the difference, that's 150 units. Now, if you look at the total, it may agree. The number of units, it's going to be in agreement. Okay, we have seen the abnormal gain is there. Okay, so this is the first part. Hopefully you would have easily managed them. Then we are coming to the next important thing. It's about the equivalent unit, because the concept of equivalent unit is pretty much required when the units are not. So when you have some output units that is not 100% completed. So if you have the units that is not 100% completed, then you may have to apply this, the equivalent unit concept. So that is the prerequisite. So here you need to take the main cost items, the cost components, the material, labor, and also the manufacturing overhead. Then in that, you need to take the output. So there you have the first, when you come to the output, it comprises the output. Yeah. When it comes to the output, it is 100% completed with respect to each of these units. You know, under the weighted average cost method, you do not make any distinction. Under the back method, when it comes to the output, you are not going to make a distinction like the completed opening WIP as well as the unit started at completed. No, there is nothing as such. You are simply taking the output. මේ WAC method එකේදී output එක අපි distinguish කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. opening WIP වලින් කොච්චරක් complete කරන්න තිබ්බද සහ කාලච්ඡේදය ඇතුලේ start කරලා කාලච්ඡේදය ඇතුලේ අවසන් කරපු ප්‍රමාණය කොච්චරද කියන එක අපි distinguish කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක අවශ්‍ය නැහැ අපිට කිලින්ම output එක ගන්න පුළුවන්. right? දැන් බලන්න මේ expected output එක ගන්න. 10,000 and 10,000. ඊට පස්සේ we have the closing WIP. So let's look at what is the situation of closing WIP. It says that the closing WIP is 80% completed for material. So with respect to the kind of material, it is only 80% completed. 4,400, 80%. Then 50% completed for labor and 40% completed for overhead. 50% completed for labor and 40% completed for manufacturing overhead. So that is the stage of completion for each of these cost component. तो मैं एक cost component සම්බන්ධයෙන් complete වෙලා තියෙන percentages තමයි අපි ගත්තේ. Closing WIP. What's in W? So, you know, again, if you have a kind of abnormal gain, if there are abnormal losses, yes, you need to ensure that that is also part of the expected output. But if you have abnormal gain, and that must be deducted. That must be deducted, right? So it's completed, but it's abnormal in nature. Hence, you need to take it as a deduction. So with that, you have now identified the expected output. Expected output. This is going to be our starting point if you are working on, in fact, whether it is weighted average, whether it is FIFO, you must need to come up with this particular kind of a schedule. So the schedule for equivalent unit is pretty much required. The only condition that decide whether you need it or not, that is the instance where you have the equivalent unit. In the sense, the output is not 100% completed. In such an instance, the equivalent unit would come into play. Right. Now you have the expected output. Now the things are quite easy. Now you need to take the respective cost. The cost of material, cost of labor, likewise. So you have material 26,470. Then you have labor 36,150, 40,635. And in this question, it was said that even there is no scrap value as well. No scrap value. The normal losses of process one has no scrap value, and also the abnormal losses are here anyway. Abnormal losses are not there. Right. So we can work out the per unit cost. Per unit cost, in the sense the material cost, the per unit Labor cost, likewise. You can take that. It's 2. So it's quite straightforward, right? Here it comes 1.983 and 3.5. And if you want to get the total cost per unit, so it's going to be this much, say 0.48. Right. Regarding this, if you have any question, yes, you can ask it. If anything that you're not comfortable over there, yes, do let me know. Right. It's like this, Buddha. Simply take the cost. You simply take the cost from the process one. You can take the cost for each of the main component, the material cost, the labor cost, and the manufacturing overhead, and you simply get them divided by the expected output. That's it. That's how we do that. 26,740. Yes, I have mistakenly taken. It has 26,407. Yes, you are very correct, Huda. It should be 26,740. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, made a mistake. FIFO වලින් WACC එකේදී වෙනස මොකක්ද? Yes, in fact, we are going to work out a WACC and FIFO question as well. The only difference there is, Huda, when it comes to this output, we are going to distinguish that. In the weighted average cost method, we do not bother whether we have the opening WIP units here and the unit is started and completed over here. We do not make a distinction in the output. But here, when it comes to the equivalent unit, so we do bother about that. So we are going to distinguish them. We are going to distinguish them. So that is in the sense you will witness that when we are working out the next question. The unit is started and completed during the period, and also the opening WIP units to be completed. Those two aspects we are going to take into account, but here there's nothing as such. And also when it comes to the opening WIP, another important requirement is that when it comes to the weighted average cost method, so in this opening WIP, the information must be available for you to distinguish that particular cost among the material, labor, and manufacturing overhead. තරපතාල අපි යම් question එක method එක කියලා නැත්නම් මොකක්ද අපි apply කරන method එක කියලා තීරණය කරන්න පුළුවන් criterion එකක් තමයි මේ opening WIP වල අපිට පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. අපි හිතමු මේකේ cost එක යම් 20000ක් තිබ්බා කියලා, 50000යි කියලා, 20000යි කියලා. Opening WIP, right? එතකොට question එකේ information දීලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ මේ cost එක බෙදා ගන්න main cost component අතර. ඒ කියන්නේ material කීයක්ද, labor කීයක්ද, overhead කීයක්ද කියලා බෙදා ගන්න පුළුවන් information තියෙනවා. ඒක 10,000, ඒක 6,000, 4000 මේ විදිහට distinguish කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒතර මොකද ඒකත් අපි මේ cost එකට දානකොට consider කරන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට ඒක important requirement එකක්. එතකොට WAC method එක use කරනවාද කියලා තීරණය කරන්න පුළුවන් එක condition එකක් තමයි මේ දීලා තියෙන opening WIP distinguish කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ cost අතර. So the cost එක split කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒතකොට එහෙම බැරි නම් අපිට මේ schedule එක work out කරන්න බැරි වෙනවා opening WIP තියෙන වෙලාව. නිසා ඒක අපේ decision criteria එකක් වෙනවා. නමුත් අපි FIFO method එක use කරොත් අපිට එහෙම requirement එකක් නැහැ. මේ cost එක distinguish කරගන්න අවශ්‍යතාවයක් නැහැ. හැබැයි stage of completion එක අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා. එතනදී. Right? You may witness that. That is a decision criteria what you need to look at. Right? Okay, now let us take this. It's 8.5. You can simply take this 10,000 multiplied by 8.5, 85,000. Also, this 150, take them multiplied by 8.5, 8.5. That's it. Now, this is the most important one, the closing WIP valuation. You need to be a little conscious, closing WIP, because with respect to material, the completion is different. It's only 3,420 units is completed and it's valued at 2. So when you come to the value 3,520 into 2. Then you have labor. Completion is 2,200 and the cost is 3. It's 2,200, that is into 3. Then you have the manufacturing overhead. It's how much? 1,760 completed and it's 3.5. That's it. So that is only tricky point. What you need to add here, and then that's it. Take that valuation. 19,800. That is your closing WIP. Take the summation. Take the summation. Right, you can see that it agrees. It agrees. That's it. 104,800. तर මේ විදිහට තමයි උතලා process 1 එක කරන්නේ. ඒතර ඒක බොහොම comparatively easy. මොකද අපිට ලොකු දෙයක් තිබුණේ නැහැ. opening WIP එකක් තිබ්බේ නැහැ. දැන් බලමු process 2 එක. Like this. So I can copy the same set of information that will make the things easy. Let me just remove the values. Right. So I would like you to attempt the process 2 first. Okay, take some time and just give it a try. Now, පුතාලා පොඩ්ඩක් attempt එකක් දාන්න බලන්න. Process 2 එකට referring to the information. Yeah. Give it a try. Take Right. So as usual, we may get the information filled depending on the information given. There you can see that opening WIP is there. Units 2000, cost 26,200. 26,200 units 2000. So it's not the material, but the previous process cost is there. Previous process cost, but it comes from previous process, that was 10,000 unit, and it's going to be how much? 85,000. From the previous process, you get 85,000 over there. The labor 40,000. It's 40,000, and WIP, sorry, overhead 59,700. Manufacturing overhead 59,700. Okay, taken. Then let's look at the output side, what it says. The output is 9,500 units. The output that it has generated, 9,500. And are there any closing WIP? Probably. Closing WIP units, 1,800. 1,800 is there. You need to check whether you have abnormal gains or loss. The normal loss is 5% from the input of process 1 and 2. The total input should include any opening WIP as well. So here this is a good point that you must consider in case of the examination, especially when you are taking the normal loss. You need to take it as the way it is said in the question. විභාගයේදීත් මේ normal loss එක ගැනීමේදී ගොඩක් සැලකිලිමත් වෙන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට ඒක අපි question එකේ කියලා තියෙන විදිහට තමයි කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒකට සමහර අවස්ථා තියෙනවා අපිට normal loss එක ගන්නකොට කෙලින්ම input එක consider කරන්න කියනවා. එතකොට ඒක අලුතෙන් add කරපු units ප්‍රමාණය විතරයි අපි consider කරන්නේ. ඒකට සමහර අවස්ථාවලදී කියනවා මේ වගේ input එකට include කරන්න opening WIP කියලා. ඒකට ඒ කියන විදිහට අපි ඒක consider කරන්න ඕන. Right? ඒක important point එකක්. ඒතර මෙතනදී කියනවා when it come to the kind of a what do you call the opening WIP, you need to include any opening. When it comes to the input, it comprises even the opening WIP as well. Okay. So then you have this 12,000 units. The 12,000 is what you consider for the purpose of computation of normal loss unit. So it's 600 units. You took it. Now you can see what is the expected output. It has to be the 12,000 minus 600. It has to be 11,400, but at the moment 9,500, 10,500. Yeah, again kind of abnormal gain scenario is that. Once you consider, you need to consider these two. 11,300, yes, the abnormal scenario is there. It's abnormal loss. In fact, not again. The loss that goes beyond is 100. So now if you look at your input is 12,000 units. Consequently, the output must also be 12,000. So it is fine. Okay, now let's look at the output. This time output comprises the finished goods. Finished goods. These are also the finished goods. Then closing WIP is there, abnormal loss is there. Abnormal loss. So the abnormal loss is straightforward. You can take them easily. The finished goods is also straightforward. It's finished 9,500, 9,500. Then closing WIP, there you need to see what is the completion. The closing WIP in process 2 is 2/3 completed for labor and 75% completed for overhead. It's not the material, but we have the previous process cost over here. No? So when you come to the previous process cost, in fact, it is 100% completed. No problem. But the labor, it's only 2/3. It's 75%. 75%. 1,350. So you can take the expected output. 11,400, 10,800 and 10,950. So when it comes to the cost, so there you need to be conscious because here normal loss is having a kind of a value over there. The normal loss of process 1 has no scrap value, but the normal loss of process 2 can be sold at a value equal to the input to process 2. So that is in the sense, what was the input to process 2? It was the previous process cost. The previous process cost was 8.5. So therefore you can value this normal loss at 8.5. The previous process එකෙන් අපිට ආව පුතාලා වටිනාකමක් 85000ක් ඒකක 10000ක්. ඒතකොට මේ ඒකකයේ වටිනාකම අපි දැක්කා තියෙනවා 8.50. හැබැයි අපි input එක විදිහට consider කරේ what we have considered should include any opening work in progress. This one has no scrap value. The normal loss of process 2 can be sold at value equal to input to process 2. Yeah. So මෙතන චුට්ටක් පොඩි hesitation එකක් තියෙනවා. Opening WIP වල වටිනාකමත් consider කරන්න ඕනද? මොකද normal loss එක ගත්ත input එක විදිහට define කරේ. Normal loss of process 2 can be sold at a value equal to input to process 2. The total input should include any opening work in progress. No. So we may consider this 8.5. So value them at 8.5. 600 into 8.5. 5,100. Then we need to take the cost. When you are taking the cost, you need to be conscious that. So here previous process cost 85,000 is there. That is straightforward. And also you need to conscious about the opening WIP. The opening work in progress of process 2 is 40% completed for labor and 50% completed for overhead. There's a value of labor 3,200 and 6,000 that is for the work done in the process 2. So this is what I mentioned. This is the key information. මම කිව්වා අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම weighted average cost method එක භාවිතා කරනවා නම් අපිට දීලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ මොකක්ද value එක. මොකක්ද එක එක cost component එකේ value එක. ඒ කියන information එක අනිවාර්යයි. ඒකට මෙතන අපිට පේනවා that particular information is given. So this is the key distinguishing feature. The main information එක තමයි පුතාලා ඒක distinguishing information එකක් වෙන්නේ. Cost එක තියෙන්න ඕනේ. So what I have highlighted in red is going to be the key information. මේක තමයි key information එක if you are to use the weighted average method. So here it made it explicit. So it says that that is 3,200. So when you are going to get the cost, here you need to add the both. So let me start with the previous process cost. 85,000 is there. You need to add. So before that, let us look at what is the cost of the previous process. So when it comes to the opening WIP, there contains a value of 26,200. So if you have distinguished that among the previous process cost, labor cost, and material cost, so manufacturing overhead cost, let us look at how it goes. The question says that it is 3,200 labor and overhead 6,000. Labor cost 3,200. Here we have 6,000. Then what is the previous process cost? The difference. This is it. 17,000. So that is the cost that you have split among the main cost component. So then you can easily take it's 85,000 the previous process cost plus 17,000, but you need to ensure that you are going to deduct the value of the normal loss. The normal loss value is 5,100. That must be deducted from the previous process cost. It may be either material or previous process cost. Your normal loss එකට පුතාලා දන්නවා value එකක් තිබුණොත් ඒක අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අයින් කරන්නේ material වලින් නැත්නම් previous process cost එකකින්. So මෙතන previous process cost දෙනවා. ඒතර අපි previous process cost එකකින් ඉවත් කරනවා. When it comes to labor, it's going to be 40,000 plus 3,200. Here we have the manufacturing overhead 59,700 plus 3,000, so 6,000. Right, okay. We have taken this. Now you can work out the per unit cost. Straightforward. Divided by the unit. 8.5, 4 and 6. And once you work that out, the value becomes 8.5. 8.5. 18.5. So the finished goods can be easily valued 9,500 into 18.5. Closing WIP, let's keep it for a while. The abnormal, so again straightforward. And the closing WIP, that you need to be little conscious. The material, or we call it the previous process cost here. How much is that? There are like 1,800 units, the entire unit, and multiplied by 8.5. Then you have the labor. So with respect to the labor, it is only 1,200 completed, and that is into 4. Then you have the manufacturing overhead. It's 1,350, that is completed 6. So once you take that 1,800 into 8.5, 1,200 into 4, 1,350 into 6. So here it comes the value of the closing WIP, 28,000. So usually we are taking it finally. This is the process account. Now let's look at the total values. The input value must equal to that of Right, it agrees. So it suggests you would have done it correctly. So that confirms you have done it correctly, right? Now you've been asked to prepare the normal loss account. Here, since you have a value, you can prepare the normal loss account as well as the abnormal loss account. So from the process you have transferred from the process 2, the value was 5,100, and in fact you can sell them. Normal loss, the question had said that it can be sold, so you have received the cash with that respect. But when it comes to abnormal loss, the question had said that abnormal loss is not having any scrap value, so you need to add accordingly. Abnormal loss cannot be sold. Process 2, you transfer the abnormal loss. It was 100, but you cannot sell that, so therefore the entire thing, not 100, it's 1,850, the value, sorry, the entire thing is a loss. You charge that to the P&L. Right. So this is how you produce the two accounts that is being requested. Right. එහෙනම් අපි දාලා ඔන්න ඉල්ලා තියෙන accounts දෙක අපි ওই විදිහට තමයි produce කරන්නේ. Right. See whether you have any questions. So if you have any, then you can ask. So the key learning outcome is here. So in a given question, if the method is not specified, the decision criteria is if you have open in WIP, and that must give you the value of each of the major cost component. So that is the key information, what you need to look for. So otherwise you cannot work out this, the schedule for equivalent units. එම cost එක දීලා තිබුණ නැත්නම් පුතාලට open in WIP වල අට හදා ගන්න බෑ මේ equivalent unit. You take the amount of the normal loss of process 2. The question had said it was at the value of, so usually it may give the amount, but here it was said that the normal loss is 5% from input this, and the normal loss of process 1 has no scrap value. The normal loss of process 2 can be sold at a value equal to input to process 2. So therefore, basically, what is input is going to be what it comes from the previous process. So from the previous process, there it comes 10,000 unit, the value at 85,000. So therefore, if you divide this 85,000 by 10,000, and that gives you the value of normal loss unit. So it was 8.5. So that's how I have taken it. The equivalent units of labor and manufacturing overhead. So in the question itself, it has said, we look at the first information, the closing work in progress of process 2 is 2/3 completed for labor and 75% completed for overhead. That is what it was said. So then I have taken here the 2/3 and here 75%. And when it comes to the previous process cost, it is 100% completed anyway. So when when then the open in W, we don't consider that when calculating the normal loss. When calculating normal loss, the question had said us, you need to consider the open in WIP as well. Normal loss calculate කරද්දී අපිට ගන්න කියලා තිබුණා පුතාලා previous opening WIP තිබුණොත් ඒකත් consider කරන්න කියලා තිබ්බා. ඒකට අපි ඒකත් consider කරලා තමයි ඇත්තටම work out කරේ මෙතන value එක. ඒතර ඔයාලගේ doubt එක මම හිතන්නේ එතකොට අපි මේ normal loss එක ගන්නකොට මේ මෙතන unit price එක ගන්නකොට අපි එතකොට opening WIP consider කරලා ගන්න තිබ්බේ කියන consideration එක තියෙනක දාලා. Is that the consideration that you have? Yes. Yes, in that also the point is there. So මේකෙත් දාලා point එකක් තියෙනවා. මොකද opening එක අපිට ගන්න කිව්වේ consider කරලානේ process 2 එකේ තියෙන any opening WIP consider කරන්න කිව්වනේ. එතකොට එහෙමනම් value එකක් විදිහට ගත්තොත් අපිට මේක 12,000 consider කරන්න වෙනවා මේ time. Right, ඒක මට හිතෙනවා ඒක more reflective. So shall we make that amendment? Yeah, I feel that that is a lot better, no? It's a good reflection. Yeah, we may do that. Then it is consistent, no? Because when it comes to the unit computation, we did that. So then how can we ignore that when it comes to the per unit? Okay. Normal loss value. Let's look at normal loss value. How we do, it's going to be 26,200 plus 85,000. If so, divided by 12,000. It's going to be roughly 9.27. 9.27. Hence, here the value has to be 9.27. 5,562. So here, when you get the cost, it's 5,562. Right. It's 18.46. You can take it. Here it has to be 8.46. 486. 28,128. Yeah. So it agrees that almost the same, but due to the rounding errors, there's 1 rupee difference. You can ignore that, right? Right? Ignore it. Yes, you're correct. The point what you have raised is yes. Even I was having a kind of a doubt when it comes to that input, what I should consider. But so as per the given information, the question had said that when you are considering the input, because it precisely defined what that input is. So it specifically said that the total input should include any opening WIP. So therefore, even you must apply the same consideration for the valuation. So it's more reflective. So that's why I have adhered to that. Good. Okay. So it's about the weighted average method. Now let's look at the second question. There it asks you to work out under the, I think, 5-4 method. No? Yeah, 5-4 method. So that would be good. Then you are exposed to the 5-4 method as well. හරි. එතකොට මේක පුතාලා 5-4 method එකකට පුතාලා expose වෙනවා. එතකොට ඔන්න comparative විදියට මේක ඉගෙන ගන්න පුළුවන්, right? So here we may take, as usual, the accounts, the process account. Simply copy the information what I have taken. And so the normal and abnormal loss accounts. So you can feed the given information. Let us feed the given information without taking much time. It's single product. At the end of process 2, complete the units and transfer to finished stocks. You are given the information related to process 2. Process 2 information, right? Okay. So let's take the opening WIP is there, 5,000 liters, unit liters, 65,400. Output of process 1. Output of process 1, no? Sorry. So that's going to be the previous process cost, 15,000 liters. And how much is that? 658, 350, 658, 350. Even the additional materials being added, material being added in the process, it's 7,000 liters, 320,000, 850 or something, 320,850, that is 7,000. Then the labor is there, the labor cost. What it says regarding the labor, there are two components of labor, 2,000 into 110, the skilled labor, and also, sorry, semi-skilled, and the skilled labor 1,000 into 200. That must also be taken, the input, and manufacturing overhead is also absorbed, 830, 950. 830, 950 manufacturing overhead. That must also be considered. Then it says the actual output, the finished goods, it's 18,000 liters. The closing WIP is 4,000. And you need to know the normal loss. It says that the normal loss was estimated at 10% of the input, and all the losses are recognized at the end of the process. So pay your attention here. Normal loss එක 10ක් විදිහට estimate කරලා තියෙනවලු. ඒ වගේම normal loss එක අඳුනගන්නේ period එක අවසානයේදී. ඒත් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මේ වගේ information එකක් දීලා තිබුණොත් කොහොමද පුතාලා consider කරන්නේ? You need to be conscious. ඒතර මේක logically හිතුවොත් process එක අවසානයේ නම් අඳුනගන්නේ අපි මේ තියෙන opening WIP normal loss වලට තාම subject වෙලා නැහැ. මොකද ඒක 100% completed නැති නිසා. ඒත් එක්කම අපි ගත්තොත් මේ closing WIP. ඒතර මෙතනත් මේ 4,000 unit කියන එක subject වෙලා නැහැ normal loss එකට. හේතුව මොකද? මේක complete වෙලා නැහැ. මොකද complete වුණාම තමයි ඒක consider වෙන්නේ. normal loss එක අපි recognize කරන්නේ at the end of the process. ඒතකොට මේ units ටික consider වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒතකොට මේක logically අපි derive කරොත් කොහොමද එන්න ඕනේ කියන එක normal loss unit computation එක. In a question, if it had said that the normal loss is calculated at the end of the process, what you should do, you must need to consider, if you have opening WIP, consider. And obviously the units added during the period, that has to be the case, undoubtedly. Here we have the previous process cost and the additional material that should be considered. So මේ previous process cost එකයි add කරන material උයි කොහොමද ඒක consider වෙනවා. Consideration එක තමයි කොහොමද opening WIP and closing WIP treat කරන්න කියන්නේ. So opening WIP කියන්නේ it's a closing WIP of the previous process. Since it is not 100% completed, so it is not subject to the consideration or the computation of the normal loss. So therefore, that must be considered over here. But when it comes to the closing WIP over here, that must not be considered. That must not be considered for the current period because it is not 100% completed. So then if you take this and apply the 10%, that's it. So අපි ගත්තොත් ඒ විදිහට දැන් දත්තා 5000යි 15000යි 7000යි minus 4,000, that is into 10%, this is it. So the normal loss unit is going to be 2,300. So consequently, if you take the expected unit, that the expected unit here units, it's going to be the 5,000 plus 15,000 plus 7,000 minus, yeah, that is it, minus 2,300. The expected unit value with 24,700. 24,700. So here you have 18,000 and 4,000, 22,000. Hence, the abnormal loss has to be 2,700. Now, if you work out the units, that may be equal. So, මෙතනත් අපිට abnormal loss එකක් තමයි right? 27,000. Yes, that agrees. Right. Now we are coming to the most important point. It's about the schedule for equivalent unit. So here the only thing is that I told you that you need another column because the material is also there. Here I told you one important thing. What is that? When it comes to this output, you need to make a distinction. Under the FIFO method, the basic thinking is that whatever units that you start first must be completed first. The first in, first out. So therefore, when it comes to this output, you need to make a little distinction. So when it comes to the output, you cannot straight away take it as a finished good, but you're taking it like this. Opening WIP to be completed. So බලන්න පුතාලා opening WIP වල තව complete කරන්න තියෙන්නේ මොනවද? මොකද ඒකනේ කලින් පටන් ගත්තේ. එහෙනම් ඒ කොටස ඉවර කරන්න ඕන. එහෙනම් අපි opening WIP to be completed කියන එක මුලින්ම consider කරනවා. ඊට පස්සේ තමයි අපි ගන්නෙ units started and completed. කාලච්ඡේදයේ පටන්ගෙන අවසන් වෙච්චි කියන ප්‍රමාණය. මේක තමයි අපි output එකේ කරන distinction. ඒතකොට අපි finished goods තියෙනවා 18,000. So in that you make that particular distinction. So if you take this 18,000 unit, there you have opening WIP 5,000 unit. So therefore, what is the unit that you had started and completed? That is simply 13,000. तर කාලච්ඡේදය ඇතුලේ පටන් ගන්න කාලච්ඡේදය ඇතුලේ අවසන් කරපු ඒවා කීයද තියෙන්නේ 13,000. අපේ output එක 18,000යි. එහෙනම් 5,000ක opening WIP තිබ්බනම් මේක අපි දන්නවා මෙතෙන් අනිවාර්යෙන් වෙනවා. So the first it is what we have should be start first and complete first. So therefore that must be there. So what we have then started and completed, that is simply the difference. 18,000 minus 5,000, 13,000. So the abnormal loss, no problem. It's at the end of the, let's look at consciously on that as well. Then the closing WIP, again, you need to refer to the completion, right? So that is the very first thing we do. Then we may refer to the additional information. And also when it comes to this normal loss, the first information said that it has a scrap value of 25 per liter. So we may take that as well. 57,500. Normal loss, it comes from process 2. Information gone. Then it says that additional materials are added to the process 2 when the process is 70% completed. Okay, here you need to be little conscious. When it comes to the additional material, it is added to the process only when the process is 70% completed. 70% completed. Process එක 70ක් complete වුණාම තමයි additional material add කරන්න. Then it says that the degree of completion with respect to the labor and overhead at the end of the period is as follows. Opening WIP 60% completed with respect to the labor and overhead. Labor සහ overhead සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපේ opening WIP complete වෙලා තියෙන්නේ 60%. ඒත් අපි දන්නවා additional material අපි add කරන්නේ කොතනද? Process එක 70% complete වුණාම. ඒතර පුතා logically හිතන්න ඕනේ when it comes to this opening WIP ඒකේ include වෙන්නේ නැහැ material තාම. මොකද material අපි add කරන්නේ once it is 70% completed. Once it is 70% completed. The stage of completion for this opening WIP with respect to the labor and overhead, it was just 60%. 60% තමයි complete කරලා තියෙන්නේ. මනම් labor තව 40% complete කරන්න තියෙනවා. There you have 5,000 unit, 40% to be completed. Material overhead the same, 40% to be completed නේ. ඒක එහෙනම් 140ක් ඕන complete කරන්න තිබ්බා. Right? Then what do you have? What about the material? The entire thing has to be completed with respect to the material. එකක 5000 complete කරන්න ඕන material සම්බන්ධයෙන්. What is 5,000? Yeah, that is opening WIP. See? Opening WIP 5,000. That's what I'm talking about. So here you get the finished, you make the distinction, right? Right, material, the entire thing has to be completed. මොකද material අපි කිව්වා add කරන්නේ 70ක් complete වෙනවා. process එක 60යි complete වෙලා තියෙන්නේ නම් මේක සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම add කරන්න ඕන. Right? Previous process cost, nothing to be completed because it has already been done. Because there's a previous process cost. ඒක අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම include වෙනවමයි. Previous process cost. So that's it. Then when it comes to the closing WIP, we need to see closing WIP is again 50% completed for labor and overhead. So here we take the completed percentage, not the units to be completed, but the completed percentage. So it's 4,000. 50% is what it is completed. 4,000. It is 50% is what completed. The material, it's not being added because it is only 50% completed. The material will be added once it is 70% completed. Previous process cost, it's given, it's already completed. When it comes to the abnormal loss, the question says that the abnormal loss or the losses that we identified at the end of the process. So if we identify the losses at the end of the process, then everything must be there with respect to this. That's it. So you can take now the expected output. 19,700. This is it. Are we correct? 3, 15, 17, 19. Right, fine. 4,000. Yeah, 2,000. Yeah, good. 10,700. Fine. Then the cost. So here, then if I'm to give, like in the case of weighted average cost, what was the decision criteria? You must be able to distinguish the cost of the opening WIP among the cost component. So the WAC method එක apply කරනවා නම් ඒකේ decision rule එක තමයි opening WIP වල තියෙන cost එක split කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ different cost component අතර. ඒ වගේම FIFO වල එහෙනම් තියෙන මොකක්ද criteria එක? FIFO වල තියෙන ක්‍රයිටීරියන් එක තමයි පුතා අපිට cost එක අනිවාර්යෙන් split කරගන්න අවශ්‍යතාවයක් නැහැ. නමුත් we need to know the percentage of completion. Opening WIP වල තියෙන percentage of completion is needed. That is the rule. Percentage of completion. ඒක අනිවාර්යෙන්ම වැදගත් information එක. මොකද අපිට දැනගන්න අවශ්‍යයි කොච්චරක් තව complete කරන්න තියෙනවද කියන එක. ඒතකොට ඒක decide කරන්න නම් percentage of completion of opening WIP is the key. ඒක තමයි decision rule එක. ඒතර මෙතන මේ information එක අපි ගාව තිබුණා. දැන් අපි බලමු cost එක කීයක් කාල පරිච්ඡේදයේ දරලා තියෙනවද කියලා. Previous process cost සම්බන්ධයෙන් we have incurred altogether 658 350. මේ cost එක දැරුවේ මේ දේවල් complete කරමු. Materials you incurred 320,850. Labor you incurred how much? 420,000. Manufacturing overhead you incurred 950. When it comes to the previous process cost, you have this normal loss value, so that must be excluded. 7,500. So once you deduct that, it comes as 600, 850. So now let's look at the per unit cost. This is it, 30.5, 15.5, 21.32, 42.18. We just take a kind of value. Value 109.5. Because now let us go and value the things. So when it comes to abnormal loss, that is the easiest one to value. So you take this 2.7 into 109.5. 295, 607, because with respect to everything, the same percentage is there, same units is there. Then let's come to the closing WIP. Let us value the closing WIP. So how we take it with respect to the previous process cost? It is 4,000 units, and that is at 30.5. Get the value 4,000 units. So 30.5, 30.5, right? Okay, good. So then you have the material. So with respect to the material, you have how many units? No, none of the units to be added there because it's not completed up to that. Then the labor. With respect to the labor, you can take 2,000 units is there, and one gets valued at 21.32. 2,000 into 21.32. Similarly, the manufacturing overhead, it gets valued 2,000 at 42.18. 2,000 42.18. So take the summation. It's 249,000. 249,000. Now we are coming to the most important one. It's about the finished goods. Let's look at how to value the finished goods. When it comes to finished goods, with respect to the previous process cost, it's 13,000 units to be completed. That is what you have completed during the period, and that was at a cost of 30.5. 30.5, yeah, 13,000 into 30.5. Then you have the material. With respect to the material, during the period, you have completed altogether 18,000 materials. You have completed. That is into 15.5. It's 18,000 into 15.5. Then with respect to the labor, you have 15,000 units, 13,000 plus 2,000. That's what you have completed. And it's 21.32. 15,000, 21.32. With respect to the manufacturing overhead, again 15,000 units into 42.18. 15,000, 42.18. So this is for the units, the cost that you have incurred to complete them. The output to be completed, this is what you have incurred. But apart from that, so there was a kind of a something that was completed at the beginning of the period. When it comes to this output, something was completed, so that must be taken. That cost must be straight away added. තරුතල් දන්නවා මෙතන අපි මේ කාලච්ඡේදය ඇතුලේ output එක complete කරන්න ගියපු cost එක තමයි මෙතන තියෙන්නේ. මෙතන cost එකකින් ගිහිලා තියෙන කොටසක් output එක complete කරනවා. හැබැයි කාලච්ඡේදය පටන් ගන්නකොටම output එකකින් කොටසක් අපි complete කරලා තිබ්බා. ඒ cost එක මෙතෙන්ට add වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒක තමයි value එක වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒතකොට ඒක තමයි tricky point එක. ඒතල හරියට ගත්තොත් තමයි 5 වල තියෙන එකම කාරණා. You take the bulk amount 65,400 that comes from opening WI. So that is going to be the value of closing stocks. 1,693,000. This is it. It's 1,693,000. 693,400. This is it. So if you take total, that should correspond 2,295,450. So we take the summation over here. That should also be the case. Yes, that agrees. So the normal loss you have transferred and you can sell them cash 57,500. Abnormal loss, transfer it. Process 2. Abnormal loss. Abnormal loss is there. 295. 650. So at what amount that you can sell this? Scrap units arising from the process can be sold for 25. So that is equally applicable for the abnormal loss. Hence, if you take it for this abnormal loss, you have 2,700 units that can be sold at 25 each. So this is the money that you get, the cash, what you would get. So that will reduce your loss, and the loss is going to be 228,100. Right, this is the loss. This is what the loss. Okay. So in case of the examination, so you can be tested either WAC, either FIFO, even some instances you have tested on both the methods. So hence your knowledge on the WAC method as well as the FIFO method is pretty much required. So the basic rule is that in some exams I have seen, so they do not specify the method. So therefore it's your judgment. So when you are applying this judgment, this particular information is needed. The percentage of completion is pretty much needed to work out this. And when it comes to, so therefore this must be the critical aspect, I would say, in case of back. Similarly, when it comes to this, what you call the back, sorry, this is the pretty much important concept in the FIFO, units percentage of completion. Here, the cost is the most important aspect because there it includes the cost from the split, the cost that you had split, the opening WIP cost that you had split among the different cost element, the previous process cost, labor, and manufacturing. That must be the case. That must be the case. Right. ඒක තමයි උතාල වැදගත්ම කාරණා. Right. If you have any questions, yes, now it is time for you to get them clarified. So that's all what we expect to discuss for the day. So in the next class, we'll be taking on another important aspect. That's going to be the CVP and the short-term decision making. So again, pretty much important area as from a examination point of view, because that must be tested, that will be tested for sure. Your participation is pretty much required. Right, okay. So if you have any question to be clarified, yes, now it is time. Okay, then hope you all are getting that. So only around 80 students is there. No? So probably I may not uploading the video recordings hereafter. So this video recording, I may not be uploading. So those who have come to the session, so they have got the benefit. And so this may not be made available, right? Thank you.